This episode of Forging Friendships is sponsored in part by Iron Mountain Metalcraft, located in the beautiful Pigeon Forge, Tennessee area. Go forge a memory with Forged in Fire fan favorite Robbie Bowman. Woo! The show is also sponsored in part by African Custom Knives, Black Dragon Forge, Paragon Kilns, and with the support of viewers like you through our GoFundMe campaign, link in description.
Hey, my name is Cowboy. I'm with Phoenix Knives. I've been a bladesmith for 23 years. I started out there in South Houston. I now live in Bellville, Texas, which was one of the smartest moves I ever made. I have an original 1891 shop. This is a passion of mine that I have dreamed of doing and enjoyed doing since I was 4 years old or younger. Every time I'd go to the Renaissance Festival or anywhere else, I'd make it as far as the blacksmith shop. Never moved again. Watching them on TV anywhere, I couldn't get enough. My brother says one of his fondest memories is he was about 4 years old. We're running around playing in the backyard, swords and armor or something, I don't know what we were doing. And I walked by and there's this cast iron hibachi sitting in the backyard. And I looked by and said, one of these days I'm going to turn that into a forge. My brother looks at me and says, what the hell's a forge? It's always something I've wanted to do, and it took years before I finally found somebody that was willing to take me in and help me realize my dream, and this has been the biggest passion I've had. After having always wanted to live this dream, around 27 years old, I had been pursuing many other dreams. Professional athlete, sports, working at sporting goods stores, managing retail shops, doing a lot of things, whatever could feed my dream and my adrenaline junkie needs. I had an old guy come into the shop one time, good friend of mine. He asked what I really wanted to do with my life. And I told him I'd always wanted to be a blacksmith. I wanted to make knives for a living. At that time, I didn't realize it was referred to as bladesmithing or a cutler, but I have since learned. I sat there, I was like, I want to make knives. I want a blacksmith. I thought it was fascinating crafting metal into anything you wanted. He laughed at me and said, you never know what's under your own nose. I was like, okay. He told me, just drive down the street about a quarter mile. There's a dirt road on the right. You're gonna go a couple hundred yards down the road. On the right-hand side, there's this dilapidated old metal building. It's an indoor shooting range. Go in there and ask for a guy named Lee. It's like, okay, that sounds like a really cool thing. He says, it's worth your while. Do you need to go do this? So that day on lunch, I hopped on the motorcycle, shot down the road. I walk into this dilapidated old gun shop. I mean, it's leaning, it's rusting, it's just torn up. I walk in, a puff of smoke comes out the door. I was like, okay, this is interesting. As I walk in and my eyes adjust to the dark atmosphere, every surface in there is covered in guns, knives, mounts. It's crazy. There's this old man sitting behind the counter with a cigarette in each hand, just puffing away, and it's just like crazy. Like, this is a little Deliverance kind of sketchy stuff. But I walk in and I look around, there's a really nice case full of knives down here. I'm like, oh, those are pretty, okay. I said, I'm looking for a guy named Lee. The old man hardly gives me a nod, looks behind me and yells, Lee, someone here to see you. So I'm like, okay. So I turn and I look back. And through the fog of this guy's cigarettes, this 6'4", 450-pound burly guy comes walking out from behind, overalls, his red shirt on, bandana around his head, ponytail hanging down past his belt. A bear of a man comes walking out around, full beard. I mean, he's just like, oh boy. I'm looking his fight or flight at this point. I'm looking for a weapon. I'm trying to figure out what to do. I'm like, this is bad situation. He comes walking up. I introduce who I am. He tells me his name's Lee. He's with Bear Claw Knives, very appropriate name. He takes me to the back. We start talking about knives, all this kind of stuff. I've always told him how it was my dream. I wanted to do this stuff. Probably the same thing every young kid comes in here and tells me nowadays. We go back and forth talking, explaining things. I explain that I really want to learn how to make knives. We talk back and forth and he's like, yeah, you can come in and buy lessons here in a month or two, give me a call. I said, no, I've been looking for this my entire life. You're not understanding. I want to learn to make knives. He takes me in, we talk, we go. I've got him down to about a week to 2 weeks. And I'm like, you're still not understanding. I've searched my entire life. I'm not leaving until I learn to make knives. So we arm wrestle back and forth for a while longer. Eventually he says, fine, show up tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. I think he was telling me to do this just to shut me up. So he told me to come back tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, we'd start our classes. And I said, excellent, we have a deal. So I hopped back on the motorcycle and I went back to my job. I was only on my lunch break. So I got there to the job and I was like, this is what I'm gonna do. The owner of the business came in and I told him, you got my notice. This is my last day. I will work through the end of the day and I now quit. Now mind you, I'm 27 years old. I'm about to take a leap of faith. I am going to just change careers automatically. Boss, his jaw hit the ground. He's like, but, and I was like, it's a slow time of season. I'm not affecting you any. You're just goofing off. I was like, you get to run your shop. I'm gonna go start a new career. So I finished that day off, went home, got a good night's sleep, showed up the next morning. We forged for 2.5 days. Made 2 knives, a nice beautiful Damascus dagger, a Tanto point, stag handle blade. I got those 2 blades, I was like, yes. So we spent the last half of that 3rd day buying anvils and tools, and he took me around places after that. We started going out buying all the vices, everything I need to set up a shop. I started setting it up in the garage and I started making knives. And I pushed hard and worked really hard. He started taking me to gun shows with him, selling things at gun shows, and I progressively kept going and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Eventually I realized I needed to learn a lot more about what I'm doing. And I wanted to know more of the history of it. I was able to get a job at a living history ranch and work as a blacksmith. So I spent the next 2.5, almost 3 years working living history. So I put on clothes from anywhere from 1830 to 1895. And every day I would go live the life of a blacksmith during those time periods. So if the 1830s told me they needed to build a new chicken coop, I had to make all the hinges, all the nails, all the door halves. They needed their plowshares swept because they were still plowing the fields with oxen. I had to sharpen all the sweeps, do everything. I learned blacksmithing to improve my hammer stroke. This made me a far better bladesmith and allowed me to hone my skills. I did that for many years. Eventually I set my own shop up in Pasadena. Needed cheap rent. It was good, affordable rent. And I started doing 3 to 4 shows a month, traveling all over. Historical reenactments, chuck wagons, cowboy action shoots, gun shows, anything I could. So 3 to 4 days a week, or 3 to 4 weekends a month, I was traveling somewhere to do an event. Then I'd come home and I'd work like a slave trying to build product to go for the next weekend. I did this for many years. And then one year I turned around and came out here to Columbus and I'd done a show. And the Chamber of Commerce from Bellville happened to watch me do this show. They thought it was a really fun event. And they were about to start a big festival here in town. And they were like, we'd love to have you at our festival. I was tired at this point. And Bellville, I'm like, I've never heard of this little town. It's less than 4,000 people. It's like, it's a dot on the map. I've been all over Texas and don't know this town. I was like, yeah, I'm pretty tired. I think I'm gonna take a weekend off. They're like, we're gonna put you in front of the original blacksmith shop. Okay, that my ears perked up. I'm intrigued. What kind of blacksmith? Oh, it's worked since 1891. It's an original shop. We wanna put you right in front of it. So that would be kind of cool. Oh, you'll get to tour the shop and see it and do all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, is there any tools in there? Oh, well, we'll have to see what's in there and all that. It's like, this sounds exciting. Yes, I'll come do your show. So I came and set up and did the show. Me and my mom, she was helping me at that time. We had a great time. I got to tour the shop and see it. It's this beautiful old building. The owners of the building at the time were like, this is pretty cool. We enjoyed having you out here. And so we're sitting out back having a beer. And he's like, what would it get to take you to move here and turn this back to a working shop? Without hesitation, I just pop off, cheap rent. And he looked at me and said, okay. So my jaw, after I picked it up off the floor, and I'm trying to understand what that this was reality, he said, okay. We talked a little bit more, and he says, I can start moving you in August. This is May. I was like, that quick? I was like, my lease isn't up till October. He says, you can still move in August. We just won't start charging you rent till October, so you got a couple months to turn around and move in. This is a dream. It's gonna take me a couple months to move all this equipment. There is nothing we do that is light. So I have to call up every friend and every favor I have, who most of them don't talk to me anymore after having moved my shop once or twice. We got everything moved here to Bellville. So in 2003, I set up the shop here in Bellville. Built in 1891 using 1 to 200 year old tools, keeping the trade alive, and I started growing from there.
When there's no one sitting on the throne, let me be the one showing you what I know.